Alright, so Fairy Tale. One of the things I wanted to cover here, I have a special guest, the Savage White Panda, and we wanted to talk a little bit about the Spriggan 12 and kind of some of the catastrophe of some of the members that actually stood out, and overall just kind of dive into them and see which ones were just straight up shit, which ones were underused, and all of that good stuff. So let's start off with Ajeel. Ajeel Ramal, I believe that's his full name. Now, that was the sand dude, if I'm not mistaken, that fought Urza early on.
Yes, you are correct. Like, Ajeel was actually one of the first Spriggans that we got to see alongside with Dimaria, using her, like, a sand ability known as the Desert King. And, well, like, honestly, he was kind of wacky at first, and we saw the Urza match with him at first. But, honestly, I wanted to question like, how exactly you felt like Ajeel was handled in the series, because I feel like he was the least worst, if anything. That's not really a title that you should have with the Spriggan.
Oh gosh, well, I mean, for starters, he didn't get bodied, but he definitely wasn't all that. And then when he came back, he was fighting Elfman and Lysana.
That's my biggest problem with him, is that he went to fight Urza like right at the start of the war, and then afterwards he just got sent to the sidelines fighting off like what was it, like Elfman and like Lysana. I was like, come on, really?
Yeah, that's a waste, and that just kind of devalued him, because he went from fighting, it's because she's Erza, to fighting, like, not scrubs, because Elfman, he's okay, and Lysana supposedly has some power, but I'd argue that Lysana's way below out of all, Mita, Jane, three brothers and sisters, whatever. Like, I would say she's the weakest, and then for him to get bodied there is like, my gosh, what the fuck?
What happened to you, Ajeel? You started off so strong. You literally bodied Urza for a bit, and then you just got fighting scrubs. Oh, I think, honestly, he just got forgotten. I think that's just honestly how it was.
So, Ajeel, you want to say crusty, or what you...
Is there like a slightly less crusty than the others award that we can give to him? Because if not, we're going to say crusty.
The wasted potential.
Yes, I think that's a good one to have. Wasted potential.
Yeah. Okay, next up, August. I would say August is one of the top of them. I mean, we still haven't seen exactly how his fight is going to finish up. As of the recording of this video, maybe the chapter will come out at some point soon, but August, I would say thus far August has been one of the best ones. Again, that's not saying too much because he hasn't had a full-on, dragged out battle with a conclusion, but nevertheless, his character is interesting. His relationships with Brandish and some of the other Spriggan, I believe Larcade as well, has been kind of intriguing, and I like August. I think he's okay thus far. What about you?
I mean, the fact that, like, Natsu, like, which, we've seen him a lot of times saying, oh, this is a strong guy. The fact that Natsu shit himself in front of this guy and is clearly acknowledged as one of the two strongest, like, members. The fact that, like, even he had Irene at a standstill, like, you don't fuck with him. And I think even the fact that he's going against Gildarts right now, one of the most strongest members of Fairy Tail. I think, like, power-wise, like, he is not meant, like, to be fucked with. And I think, like, as you were mentioning earlier, but August's, like, relationship that he had with, like, Brandish, like, sort of this kind of, like, grandfather to, like, granddaughter relationship. Also, as well, what we've mentioned as well, with Larcade as well. And, I don't know, like, there's just something about him that I appreciate a little bit more than the other ones. Maybe that's because he's the more veteran of the group. And the fact that he is fucking intimidating as hell, and I want to see exactly what goes down with his fight with Gildarts.
Yeah, so August, he's an okay one thus far. Next up, Bloodman. What are your thoughts on Bloodman? Which he's had like a couple different translations, Bradman, and
it was a while. It was like Bradman, Bloodman, like it was like it went everywhere with this motherfucker. Like with this is the one that like both like Ajeel and Letty fought. This is the one that literally like did like necromancy. It was like he brought the souls to the living, and this is where we had I'd say one of Ajeel's best moments with Letty. Like with this fight, personally, I think it was really enjoyable. I'm curious to see what you thought exactly of like the Bloodman fight exactly.
I think he was good, but it was classic Hiramashima that kind of fucked everything up in the end because he put in work. He made them struggle. He made them go through hell. He was actually a pretty formidable opponent. I mean, granted, he lacks, I guess, characterization as far as like he really just had basic details, but we didn't get any backstory or anything like that. So in that regard, it's like, okay, he's bland. But as far as the fight that he had, it was pretty damn good until we had just a BS at the end with what happened. So I would say Bloodman, more wasted potential in a way.
One of the more interesting things I kind of liked about him is that, like, every other Spriggan we've seen with to that point was like, oh, we're just a very strong magician at this point. This was a curse. This was one of, like, Xerath's strongest demons that he actually had that was, like, enlisted into, like, his 12 Spriggans, his army. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and seeing, like, some of the, like, techniques that he had. Like, I believe he did actually have some of the other techniques of, like, other, like, demons that we've seen. Like, I believe it was, like, he had, like, Silver's abilities. I liked him, but as you just previously said, like, the problem was not really with the character itself. I think it was more with Hiromashima's writing and the way, like, how he normally resolves these fights, and that's the problem where... And there wasn't too much to him as a character either way. He was just more like, grr, I'm evil, but, like, he was a more intimidating out of all the Spriggans, I would say.
Yeah, it's basically just, like you said, Hero messed everything up in the end, so...
We're going to be saying that with a lot of the Spriggans we are today.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, Bloodman, he had potential up until the end, so... Wasted potential. That's what I'm going to say. Wasted potential as well regarding that character. Because he could have had a major impact on the series. He could have been the one that put Ajeel down and, you know, made them go through hell. So I'd say wasted potential there. Brandish... I like Brandish. I don't even know, like, she's part of the Spriggan, but in the beginning she came across as, like, you know, a baddie or whatever. Then she had a couple of different character changes or whatever. But overall, Brandish has been okay. She hasn't been, like, the most menacing or anything like that. But she just served exactly what Hero was trying to do with her, is that she's kind of confused after a certain point. She first had this grudge against Lucy because of her mom in the past or whatever. But, like, overall, Brandish has been okay. That's really where I stand with her. She's not bad, but...
She's the only one that actually had development out of all of the Spriggans, though. Like, probably, like, with a tiny bit that we had maybe with Irene, like, with her backstory. But Brandish is the one where we saw that she was this cold, heartless bitch at the start that didn't care. And then the more that we found out about Brandish, we understood why exactly. It was like, oh, why she exactly hated Lucy for this reason. Why did she, like, not trust them from the start? And, like, seeing her, like, nearly, like, pretty much 180 between, like from what we've seen, and the fact that she was useful, like, where she did save Natsu, like, did save Natsu from pretty much losing his life, although I think we could have gotten a much better fight. I mean, do we have to remember, like, how she got taken down by, like, Lucy and Kana in the first play with the with, like, what was it, sneezing, if I remember correctly? Like, there were stupid moments.
But if we're going by that logic, that was par for the course for a majority of the freaking fights, you know. But as a character, you know, established and developed and stuff like that, and not just developed in the jug area, she's been okay. Like, honestly, I aside from, yeah, like what you said about her fight and how the, you know, stupidity of what happened with her and Lucy, overall Brandish has been okay, especially the fact that, comparatively speaking to a lot of the other Spriggans, she actually had some development and we got a backstory, and she's kind of just been interesting. She didn't pull the classic, which is something that I thought Hero was going to do. The classic, oh, she's a good guy now and she's rocking with Fairy Tail. Like, she's just kind of like, fuck both of you guys. I don't really care.
Yeah, she chose her own path. She didn't say, like, I'm kind of agree with you guys, but that doesn't mean I'm going to completely turn over to your side. Like, I kind of appreciate and that, like, even when the one part, like, she would have probably joined Fairy Tail's side if it wasn't for the fact that, like, she got manipulated by, what's his name, Mest, I believe, the guy that manipulated her and, like, stabbed August, like, and the fact that she actually gave so much of a fuck about August, where she was, like, literally crying, and, like, I think, like, that was the biggest part of it, where it's like, I kind of appreciate it, like, because if you got manipulated, you wouldn't be like, yeah, no, I'll join with you, Fairy Tail, you seem cool. Like, no, fuck both of you, I'm out of here.
Yeah, so Brandish, okay, now let's talk about one that, personally, I would say is the biggest waste of potential because her powers were so hacks. And who I'm referring to is Dimaria. Dimaria, my gosh, this woman, she has the power to stop time. She was just broken. She had the best fight, I will say, in all of the Spriggan fights or whatever. She definitely had the best fight against Wendy, and that's usually part of the course where Hero, he just does really good Wendy fights, and her fight with Wendy and everything that happened, that little Hunter x Hunter Gon thing that happened with, what's that character's name? The pink-haired chick?
Oh, Sharia, that's her name. It's been a while since we've seen that character, but like that's honestly a good comparison to even say. It's like where they use like ultirs, like was it like arc of time to like age their bodies up, and like I think like as well like a lot of like the fights that we saw, especially with Dimaria, and a lot of like from what you got saying, a lot of them were like kind of like homages and like, oh, let's bring this back, like with what we saw with Bloodman. He brought back curses. With Dimaria, we finally saw a god slayer again. Like we finally saw someone that had like this god ability, which like it was like a takeover god soul, like if I remember correctly. And I was like, oh, we finally had something that brought. And like we mentioned, her powers were ridiculous.
Yeah, even when she came back, literally Hiro Mashima had to throw the strongest thing on the protagonist side, END, to take her down, because otherwise, you know, her power is absolutely broken, which was supposed to be part for the course with the Spriggan. Their powers is immensely broken, but, you know, overall, like, I think she could have just been a monster. And, you know, the fact of how she went out, now she's just kind of like in Brandish's hand, is like, okay, I think honestly the biggest waste of potential as far as like she had incredible powers, and it's like she had an amazing fight with Wendy, but she could have been something else. She should have been one of the leaders, if anything, of the Spriggan, one of the top tier.
She was one of the first ones that set up, like next to Ajeel. I remember she was one of the first ones that we saw, and it was like she seemed like she was going to be this really badass bitch that would take on. Honestly, my biggest problem that I've had with her was not even the fight. The fight is the fact that like she was set up to have like this really interesting relationship with Brandish for a while. Like these two were like at each other's throats for years, and then that never got really explained. Like where it was like, what is the relationship? Why do they have like this love-hate relationship between each other? And it just never, it seemed like it just was something that never like got addressed and all that, maybe due to rush of time or something. So that's a shame with Dimaria.
Yeah, Dimaria, wasted potential, but did have a really good fight. God Serena.
Oh,
let's talk about God Serena.
Wasted potential screaming out with this character.
We could have had so many, because, you know, he had how many different Dragon Slayer lacrimas inside of his body. And I mean, the way he went out, if you're going to go out in Fairy Tail at this point and it not be complete BS, at least let it be somebody. So the way he went out, you know, from Acnologia, I'll accept that, because that's fucking Acnologia, boy. Like, that's the prime time of Fairy Tail.
If you're gonna get one-shotted by a character, maybe the Dragon King himself might be the only excuse that you have. But I feel that should have been a different fucking Spriggan. Let that be like that shitty-ass Jacob or something like that. Not this guy that was set up for... He was, like, if I remember, like, it was, like, a very long time ago he was set up. Because, like, originally he was one of the strongest Wizard Saints. And then he got set up as, like, oh, I'm one of the big bads in fucking Alvarez. And I'm like... what happened? And then nothing happened with this character at all, apart from...
And we thought there was going to be development regarding... A lot of people were theorizing that he was supposed to be that character from Fairy Tail Zero that was related to Makarov.
Yeah, Yuri, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he was going to be Yuri. That didn't come to fruition, which, honestly, if it was done right, that would have been more interesting than just, hey, I'm really, really strong, but I got one-shotted by the King of Dragons, so fuck it.
Like, I think I just like that about, like, if anything, because the first part we ever saw of him is, like, he was taking on all the Wizard Saints by himself, and he was like, this is what you deal with one of the strongest Spriggans. Like, he's releasing all this Dragon Lacrima. It was like, with something was left behind for a while, and I loved that. I was like, oh, a thing that came back from a long time ago. I loved that, but then you just got one shot, and then it's like, you got set up like 300 chapters ago. How could you go out this way? So it's like, I couldn't even scream even more wasted potential with this character. It hurts. It really hurts that this guy went down this way.
Next one. I don't really have much to say about him, to be honest with you. I feel as though he's kind of Fairy Tail's Hoshwald from Bleach. I'm referring to Invel Yuta. He existed?
That's being a little bit unfair. I feel like, if anything, Invel was one of the characters where, like, he had some moments. Like, he was always there by the sidelines, like, kind of like how Harshwell was with what we got to see with Bark. But, like, there were moments that he actually had. I mean, I still get, like, the emotional moments of, like, what he had with Grey and Juvia, like, the fact of what he tried to do to them. Like, he tried to sacrifice them.
But it was similar to that one case that we were just talking about of how it was Hero's writing that kind of fucked up his character as well at the end.
Honestly, I think more the problem that we had with Invel is that he never really got a time to, like, actually explain about him. It's like, no, and this is the problem with, like, near every single Spriggan, with the exception, I'd like to say, of Brandish and maybe Irene and August. Like, none of them get an explanation. None of them have, like, a backstory. Invel, like, what do we know about him apart from, oh, he's smart and that he has ice powers? What do you know about him? Nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could argue we know he's ruthless because of what the fuck he tried to pull against Grey and Juvia. But yeah, I don't know. Invel, I've never really dug him. And I guess especially the way everything turned out in the end kind of really got me more sour to him. Even though I shouldn't. Maybe that's misplaced. I should just be like, yo, Hero, what you did there? So Invel's like... wasted potential again, I guess.
I feel like he's the one where I'm like, I feel like there's nothing really wrong with him, but the fact is, like, there's a whole big theme with these characters where it's like, you should have spent time actually giving them something. Where it's like, why do they fight? You know, why do they follow Zeref? What's their reason? Like, how did they become a bad guy then? It's just, they were never explained at all, and it breaks my heart because, like, this is why, like, why we have so many problems with Alvarez.
Next up, Irene. Irene. This was one of the characters of the Spriggan that we really were excited for a long time. Even when she wasn't on screen, we're like, hey, I wonder what Irene is up to, whatever. And her backstory was always intriguing. We kind of got it. And everything that happened. Honestly, I feel as though the two strikes against Irene, one was, I felt as though it was a stupid move to go into Wendy's body without, you know, completely finishing her opponent.
God, I forgot about that. Oh, that was so stupid.
It's kind of like, I felt as though Hero was trying to do a version of what, like, Madara did, you know, in Naruto, where he, instead of just being immortal, he became mortal again, which kind of, he had reasons behind it, just like she had reasons behind it, or whatever, but it's like you're powering down, but hers was to a whole other extreme, because at the very least, Madara knew, okay, I need to be human in order to get this godlike, you know, Jubi power. Irene is like, I just really want to be human, so let me be human.
I want to know smell and food and touch again, please.
She literally threw the battle so that she can taste the sandwich, and then didn't even get to taste the fucking sandwich.
She didn't even have a chance to have that nice club sandwich, you know? Like, but then again, like, she has the opposite problem of every other Spriggan, though. She has the development. She has the time on screen. Like, I like Irene. I like everything, the reason. Like, because let's be honest, she's like, what, like 500 years ago, you would go fucking crazy if you didn't know your sense of smell, like any of this kind of shit. No, you wouldn't know.
She's the most developed. There's no arguments there. She's the most developed of all the Spriggan 12.
Like, she actually had a backstory, and the backstory was great. Like, she's the one that, like, out of all of them that Hero spent time with. I mean, the Crimson Despair. Like, and besides, she had a lot of moments to show how fucking badass she was. Like,
the second strike was Hiro Mashima's writing, though, and that was the way the fight ended. She's a dragon. Erza just dusted her, and I mean, it was cool what happened to her afterward, like, from just holy shit, regarding Acnologia just obliterating her body, so that was cool. And overall, Irene is like, the ending is what kind of got me sour to her, because I was fucking with Irene for a long time. I thought she was awesome, her backstory, everything, her powers, is just kind of like the way she went out. Hero fucked it up again for Irene just in that regard. But if I was to honestly still say one of my favorites of the Spriggan, it probably still would be Irene, even with everything that happened, just because she had great development. She was really cool. She just made some terrible choices towards the end.
I wouldn't say she's wasted potential. I would say she's more flawed than anything, because it's ironic that all of her problems are right at the very end, I feel, for me, where it's like
it fell apart at the end.
Yeah, it did, and and as always, it's because it's an Urza fight, and Urza, for some reason, just ever since, I'd like to say, maybe even tower ahead and even maybe earlier than that. She just can't have a good fight, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why Hero always needs to have Urza brand as like this huge, overpowered, like she can't be defeated by nothing. Like,
and that's a discussion for another day though, because we could talk about that for a while.
That'd be 20 hours, but yeah, let's just move on.
Next up, we don't even really got to spend much time because I'm not going to dignify this one. Jacob, he's shit. He's crusty. He's shit. Fuck Jacob. Terrible Spriggan. Probably one of the worst ones. Oh, boobies. Oh, God. Fuck you, Jacob. You suck.
The funniest thing is, like, you know, his biggest weakness of all is like, oh, I can't look at fucking women's tits. Motherfucker, you are in the wrong series. You literally fuck with the wrong guild as well. Like, you just got all these bitches coming at you, like, flying around. Like, you were fucked by second one the second you revealed that little problem you had.
Yeah, so Jacob trash. Let's just move on. I don't want to...
That's all the time he ever deserved.
Okay, Larcade or Larcade or the White Dragneel. I'm going to call him the White Dragneel.
Let's call him the White Dragneel because I think everyone will understand them. Fuck the translations. It's White Dragneel.
Another interesting character. The way he went out was a little but ultimately I'd still say he was very interesting. You know, his connection with seemingly being Zerof's son. A lot of things regarding that. I'm like, okay, you know, the White Dragneel is just, I think he should have a bigger moment, and I think he could have played a bigger part in things, opposed to how he just kind of went out in the end. What do you think?
I think mainly, like, what the problem was is that, like, his opponent, like, what he was given in return, like, this guy was set up for, like, oh, he's a fucking son, like, you know, he's a member of the Dragneel family, like, what's going on with it? And honestly, like, I don't want to say too much, because obviously he's not, as currently as what we've seen and all that, he doesn't seem like he's fully done in the story yet, like, he still has a little bit more to play, but, like, the fact that you got taken out by Sting...
Oh, God, kill me.
Saber fucking tooth. Like, you should... That's the one where it's like, okay, if that went down by Natsu, if that went down by, like, fucking... even Urza fucking Christ.
Oh,
like,
for fuck's sake.
You know it's bad when I'm mentioning Urza, of all people, to go and get taken down by, but it's like... Calm the fuck on. And plus, honestly, there were some good moments in him. I mean, I absolutely adored when he put a fucking cross through, like, Sting's shoulder and made him look like a bitch, like, for, like, a couple of chapters. But it's like, then afterwards it's like, no, I'm just gonna have this power up and, you know, fuck you over. But, I mean, the recent stuff, he's just...
Wasted potential? Put him in that category?
Honestly, this is the one where I wouldn't put in wasted potential because, honestly, we aren't finished with him yet. So I'd like to put in, at the moment... flawed, like, until we find
extremely flawed.
Extremely flawed. Put him back in the bed. That's all he needs to be. Like,
he gave us confirmation on who got laid in Fairy Tail. You gotta give him some.
It took a little bit of raping to get through it, but hey, I mean, there's, I guess, people in Fairy Tail bang, I guess. Like,
and then we got two left, which honestly they're kind of the least interesting. Probably should have talked about them earlier on, but. We have Waloito. I don't even know how to pronounce that fucker's name.
Wall,
that machine
I believe
fucker.
His name. Like, I believe his name's like pronounced like Wall or Walu or something.
Yeah. And Nineheart. Wall, he was just crusty. I didn't care for him. Oh, I'm a machine, blah, blah, blah.
I thought he had an alright fight, and I kind of like the little twist at first with the original body.
He had an okay fight.
He had an alright fight with Laxus, and I kind of like the little twist that he had. It was like, oh, I had the android body at first, and there's my true form, actually, and you don't fight. Like, there was some good moments with him, and but then again,
I would argue he's not memorable, though. Like, aside from his design itself, as far as, like, whoa, what happened with him again? Like, he's just not memorable to me.
He just didn't do anything apart from that. I think, like, he was one of the, like, Spriggans that probably had the least amount of time spent on, I'd say, and then, like, Nineheart, like, he sounded like he was going to get set up, like, he's like, oh, he's like a servant of Irene and everything, and then he has a power of, like, fucking bringing back the dead.
Yeah, pretty much, he was Kabuto. He had Edo Tensei.
Yeah, and he brought back, like, every single other Spriggan that got taken out in that battle, and that was his only good thing. And then he was like, oh, I've got a power up because of Irene, and then he went down like a bitch. Another one that got taken out by Urza, for the most part.
Oh, for fuck's sake, fuck Urza. So, anyway, no. Honestly, it's interesting because I think that Hiro Mashima, you know, had he played the way he should have played with these characters and done certain things, I think that a lot of these characters, because they were interesting, they did have some really cool powers, they did have cool designs, there was a lot of cool things he could have done. I think it's a testament to each and every character that we went through, almost all of them. Not all of them entirely, but majority of them were wasted potential, and they could have been so much more, you know, from Dimaria, her insane powers, God Serena, I mean, Larcade. Jacob was shit, fuck Jacob, but...
Yeah, look, I think the biggest problem though, like on it, like, and it's real sad because this is the last arc we're talking about here, and every single member that we have talked about has problems. There's shit like what, like with other series when you think about their last arcs, it's like, oh no, that character was badass, or no, I remember this great ass moment. Every single one of them has problems, and honestly, like from when I've looked at the interviews and I've looked at like Heroes Knows and all that, like a lot of it is his fault, but I would like to blame his fucking editor as well. That seemingly is pushing him very quickly, saying, "No, keep going faster, faster, faster." Like
to be fair, we do have information that's out there that if he would have listened to his editor from the beginning, I think a lot of this thing could have been prevented, because his editor wanted about 5 or 6 Spriggan, and Hero was like, no, the number 12 has a meaning. So for an arbitrary number, because he gave it meaning, it's not like this incredible connection to the story or whatever. If it was 7, then I guess, because Hero has a boner for 7, you know, I would have understand it. But 12, I mean, you could cut out quite a good chunk of these characters and get the most meaningful ones. Get rid of Jacob, get rid of Invel, get rid of Waluito, whatever, like, get rid of Ajeel. You could have get rid of quite a bit of these, and you would have had a really strong cast of God Serena, Dimaria, Irene, Larcade. Like, you could have had some legit, really good developed characters, and, you know, potentially not have the same bullshit that he pulled. But then again, it's fairy tale, so who knows? It's Hero. But overall, yeah, that's our thoughts on the Spriggan 12. Any final thoughts you want to say on these members?
I honestly, I think like that's a very good thing that you mentioned. I think if anything, they would actually should be shortened in half. I think like then we wouldn't have the problem like we have 12 characters, give them all backstories, give them reason to care about, go. Like I think if anything, maybe it should have been shortened down, and then maybe I think we would have had a little bit of the better arc. But then again, I still enjoy Fairy Tail, but it's a shame that the final arc is going down this way, and it was an absolute blast to have this discussion with you.
I appreciate you joining me. Guys, let us know. Worst Spriggans, which ones were shit, which ones surprisingly you thought were cool, and your overall thoughts on a lot of these fights that we've had. Fairy Tail is almost over, so it was nice to at the very least talk about what we've been going through for the past couple of years with this arc and these characters. That's all we have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, he's Panda, and as always, people, have an awesome day.